Thank you for staying with us. Now, our next guest is one of Ireland's most talented and popular young performers and has done what many young hopefuls can't. He's proved to be a huge success in the United States. Born in County Kilkenny, Darren Holden has gone from being the lead singer in Riverdance on Broadway to working now alongside one of the biggest showbiz superstars in the music industry, Billy Joel. Before we chat to Darren, let's take a glimpse of him in action as the lead vocalist in the Tony Award-winning hit, Movin' Out.
Yeah, 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 I keep on the bed.
God, I'm exhausted just looking at that bit there. My God. And you get that for 2 hours.
Absolutely, every night. 6 nights a week, actually.
So basically the premise is a bit like Mamma Mia and We Will Rock You, is that the songs of Billy Joel have been taken and put to a story. Not necessarily a Billy Joel story, but just a story. Tell us about the story of the show.
Exactly. Well, Billy wrote a song for the Stranger album called Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, and it's based around these characters called Brenda and Eddie. And so Twyla Tharp, who's one of the leading dance choreographers in the United States, she came up with this really good idea of, you know, building on the Brenda and Eddie characters by talking about James from Movin' Out, Judy from Why, Judy, Why, and a bunch of other characters that Billy Joel's written about in his time as a songwriter. And it just creates this really cool story that begins in 1965 and takes you all the way through the Vietnam War, and the struggle, the aftermath of the Vietnam War, the effect it had on the United States, and dealing with loss, and just trying to get through the drug period of the 70s, and basically all the friends try to...
Does it take you from like the GIs and the Vietnam War, a bit like Miss Saigon?
It does, actually.
Like
there is actually a similar scene to Miss Saigon in the first act. And
the heat is on in Saigon.
Yeah, yeah. And but basically all the characters find their way back home, and it's kind of a happy ending, and it ends in 1985. But it's just proven to be a great success.
How did you become to get the big starring part in it?
Well, a friend of mine, Merle Freimark, who is she's the press rep for Riverdance in North America, and about a year ago, she told me that Movin' Out were casting for a national tour because they'd been on Broadway for like a year, and but they were having problems finding a piano man, and they'd scoped the United States. They'd done auditions in LA, Miami, New York, you name it, and couldn't find anybody. So I was getting ready to leave Riverdance and go on tour to promote my country album. But she said, well, why don't you take a little time out and just go down to New York, meet the casting people, the directors, whatever. So I did. And
it sounds so glam, doesn't it? Why did you take some time out and just fly down to New York and meet the casting directors?
But so I went in, we had a little bit of a chat, and I played them a verse or two from 2 songs, and they said, well, do you want the job? And it was just like that. It was just really, really quick. And I'm like, well, yeah.
And were you a fan of Billy Joel?
Yeah,
music?
I mean, for as long as I can remember. I mean, I think maybe the first song I ever remember as a kid is Just the Way You Are. Yeah. Yeah, which is kind of, it's ironic, I think.
And so what was it like then to meet him then, and sort of, and him being with you and sort of giving you advice and sort of saying, yeah, you're doing a great job?
Yeah, it was pretty nerve-wracking at first. I mean, I didn't know he was around. I think it was my 3rd show on Broadway. And I was just getting ready to, you know, I was limbering up, whatever, before I went on. And he just jumped on the bandstand. And I got the shock of my life, and I said, oh, please tell me you're not here to watch me. And he goes, okay, I'm not here to watch you. You know, but he was right there in the front row all the way through. It was crazy.
But he said, he told you that you were doing a great job, but he wanted the more of American accent. So what did you have to do to try and
Well, he told me that I was rolling my R's and stuff, but I had to sing like I was from Long Island. So he went off and bought me the 1st season of The Sopranos.
All right.
Yeah, so, and then, of course, I became addicted to The Sopranos. So
you just sit and watch them every night and try
exactly, get the accent down, you know what I'm saying?
And you've got it, have you?
I think so, yeah.
It's great to see someone like you, like, having such a success over in America. Because, like, I love to see it because you've done all the gigs. You've done it from an early age, and you've done the shows, like from in Kilkenny with your band Tweed.
Yeah, exactly.
Louis Walsh then spotted you and asked you to support Boyzone.
Yeah, I worked with Louis for a very short time in the 90s, and I mean, that led me to you know, go on and release some singles in Ireland, and but, you know, the pop thing that I was doing at the time, it was very kind of a short-lived thing, and I really needed something more, you know, something extra, because I'm more of, I was more into the music than the image, so I really needed to get to the States.
And you're totally based there now?
Yeah, totally based there. I've been there now for 5 years.
And then how did you get Riverdance? How did that come about?
Well, I was in a touring show in Germany, and John McColgan, thankfully, John McColgan gave me a call there and said, look, we've seen you perform in Germany. Would you like to, you know, become a member of Riverdance? And I didn't know it was the Broadway show at the time. So I said, yeah, why not? You know, so I came back. Did an audition, met John, met Julian Erskine, who's, they're both great friends of mine now, actually, and then they told me about the Broadway show. Would I be interested? And
was this the one that Brian Kennedy started?
That's the one that Brian Kennedy was. So I was Brian's understudy at the start, and eventually, after he left, I did the lead vocals there.
So that was your big Broadway.
That was the big Broadway thing, and of course, then I said, when we were leaving Broadway, I said, well, that's the end of Broadway for me, but
here you are back.
You just never know.
So where does the Nashville and all the country music then come into it then, if you're like this big Broadway star?
Well, when I was in, after about maybe 4 months with Riverdance on Broadway, when everything had died down, I just started to get a bit antsy, and I just used to get up every day in New York and go, well, I want to do something else, you know, so I ended up doing like acting. I did like jingles, TV adverts, whatever, and eventually I met a guy called Don DiNicola, who is now my manager, and he was running a studio down on 19th Street in New York, and he was working for people like HBO and doing all these TV shows, but he wanted to do a country and western album and wanted to know if I'd be interested. So of course I said yes.
And the man who never says no.
Absolutely, never say no to anything. But so it took off from there, and we ended up in Nashville, and I've just last month really got a single in the top 3.
Is this your new one? Is this your new album?
Yes, that's a new album. It's called Live and Learn. And the most recent single from that actually made number 28 in national airplay charts in the US.
So it's going.
It's just going so well. I mean, I just can't believe it.
So you're just back here now for
back for 2 weeks. I've just been down in Mooncoin, and I got to say hello to everybody in Mooncoin.
The accent is still, the Irish accent's still there.
I hope so.
The American is sort of, it's a real crossover between the American and the Irish accent. Darren, listen, continued success.
Thanks a million, Alan. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Hopefully then you'll bring it to Ireland at some stage.
Well, you know, there are tentative plans right now to do a European tour, and I'm sure Ireland would be on there. And I'd be pushing for it,
You'll be the big star here.
I sure hope so.
Listen, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
We've lots more in the next hour of the program.